And we're live. What's going on, everyone? It's Talks with Kenny here today, and we got a lot of news and things to cover today. I'm just gonna jump right into it. I know I put it back. I put the time back a little later than usual, but that's for a reason. I had a lot of things going on this week, but let's get right into the stories, and then as always, we'll talk about the YouTube censorship, and then I'm kind of gonna give you my thoughts about conservatism, why I'm a conservative, why I believe that conservatism can essentially help us in our way. End of the day, people haven't been taught really what conservatives in. Oh, I can't speak today, guys. But I'm gonna borrow some of the insights from this book called Conservatism or Rediscovery. I found this book very invaluable in understanding conservatism from more of an academic perspective, but more into that later. Done with my little monologue intro. Let's get into the story. So the first story of the news for this live stream / podcast format that I have going on is YouTube wants you to watch more news from authoritative sources, aka not from people like me, right? And I noticed this in reality, like my views has been going down for all my news content. So I might have to change the direction, not change the direction, but I might, if you notice why I do less news in the future, this is probably why. I'll still try to blend in news into my topic videos, but yeah, YouTube is trying to discourage civilian journalism, which is essentially what I'm doing, right? If you look up definitions of civilian journalism, that's what I'm doing. I'm reporting the news from a civilian perspective. I didn't go to school for journalism. I didn't have no degree. All I did was pick up some books, gain some insights, vet the knowledge, and I put stories to your attention. Now YouTube is lowering, I guess, my impressions, my ability to make an impact, right? And I noticed it. I thought you guys weren't watching my videos because you didn't want me covering news or something, and I don't know. Enough said. Let's get into the story, and then I kind of give more of my thoughts and more of my commentary into this. With a new watch page, the platform wants to make it easier for users to find more news videos. It also pledged $1.6 million to help fund short-form news content. It's not for creators like me, though, right? And the reason for this change is YouTube is not trying to like hurt the bigger guys that's already established, like the Candace Owens of the world, the Daily Wires of the world. Who else? The Quartering, Tim Pool. I don't know if I said Tim Pool already. It hurts smaller creators like me, right? So like the up and comers, the one that is not backed by an organization, I get hurt more from this than any other creator because essentially they want people to follow the narrative, right? And we know, me and you, we know mainstream media gets it wrong. Mainstream media is just as culpable of producing misinformation as I would produce misinformation. The only thing is it's rubber stamped and approved by YouTube. This is another form of gatekeeping. This is what it is. Like, let's call it a spade a spade. This is gatekeeping. We want news stories where they said, oh, Israel bombed a hospital. Who said I think Reuters said that. New York Times said that. It was all over mainstream media. But then when it comes out, who debunked it? Civilian journalists like me. The Andy Nodes, the Ben Shapiros, they debunked it. They didn't go to school for journalism, but they debunked something that authoritative sources said was true. Oh, Israel destroyed a hospital. They bombed the Gaza hospital. Come to find out, it was the parking lot. But YouTube wants you to get your news solely from authoritative sources. More like government-controlled sources. But hey, whatever pays YouTube's bills, because YouTube's desperate for money. I don't know if I told you guys this. YouTube now makes it mandatory that ads must be run during live streams. Can you believe that? YouTube's desperate for money, and this is how they get you. YouTube is embracing news from authoritative sources at a time when Meta is reluctant to report hard news or politics on Threads, and X owner Elon Musk has taken a dismissive stance towards legacy media because legacy media is dying. I'm not being ageist here. Only boomers and Gen X people are watching legacy media. People my age, if you're a millennial and younger, you get most of your news from people like me and social media. Google's video platform is rolling out a new immersive watch page experience on mobile that is designed to suggest more news content when users are watching news videos. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts in the chat. If you're watching this on the replay, have you been getting notifications for my news videos? Have you been, after you watch my videos, you get suggested news from the big 3-letter legacy media corporations? Let me know, because I'm really interested in knowing how effective this is, because I noticed my impressions has gone down a lot. But I'm still going to continue doing this because this is like a passion thing for me right now. It also plans to spend $1.6 million to promote creation of news content for its short-form shorts services. Where's this money? Who's this money going to? Is it going to promote creators like me? No, it's not. Legacy media, right? Because legacy media can't compete toe-to-toe with people just propping up a camera and speaking from their room. No, they have to get special treatment. They have to have the referee make them have unfavorable calls for their way, right? I'm just saying. Because look, the legacy media don't know how to make short content on YouTube. This is not their space, but they want to take over because they're authoritative sources. What gives them the authority? This is a fallacy. The fallacy of authority. This is what it is. Like, they can't get it wrong. Like, they don't have a bias. Look, they have a bias. All news corporations have bias. But they're more authoritative because they pay more money to YouTube. That's essentially what's going on. Sorry. The new YouTube page will appear when you open a video that has a newspaper icon and will highlight relative long-form content, live streams, podcasts, and short videos beneath their underlining plain content. We believe this update news will help viewers access a range of credible and diverse voices. Okay, credibility is what's the credibility based on? Credentialism? If you're backed by some big corporation or if you have some degree, to me, I follow the results. If someone can prove a demonstrable and they can demonstrate their claims to be true, that's credible. Diverse, what kind of diverse voices are you talking about? Like, this is all subjective based on YouTube's point of view. This is not objective news. This is not objective stance. Is word salad to cover up? Essentially, this is the people you're allowed to listen to and this is the people you're not. You don't prove a man that he's wrong by cutting off his tongue. You prove that you're scared of what he's going to say. And they want desperately to control the narrative. They want desperately, legacy media want desperately, they probably paid YouTube to do this. Legacy media want desperately that they get your trust again. That they get to be the arbiter of what you get to, what knowledge you get exposed to and what knowledge you don't get exposed to. So they can craft the narrative for you. This is why I believe this quote from Frederick Douglass, that a man who can read is forever free, because a man that can read or a man that can teach himself anything cannot be, controlled on what information he's exposed to or not exposed to. And this is what I will encourage people who are watching this stream to do, right? Be unpredictable. Go. Don't follow into convenience. Seek knowledge. When they want to dive into a news topic, Google blog post reads. So this is an example of how they're doing it. AP, Sky News, CBS, the usual, right? Most journalists are liberals. So, this is going to be heavily centered towards the favor of liberals. Footage of YouTube figures shared by the video platform shows how opening a PBS video about floods in Pakistan will list more videos about the same news event beneath its handling, like latest updates, explanations and commentary, live news, and shorts. The recommended videos are all from major news publishers like the Associated Press, Sky News, and CBS Evening News. According to Google, the new watch page experience will initially roll out in mobile around 40 countries and expand to its desktop and living room interface in the future. So they're rolling it out slowly. Meanwhile, the Google-owned video platform is also pledging to spend $1.6 million to promote the creation of short-form short news content with over 20 organizations across 10 countries. This is what I'm talking about. Making calls in the favor of news organizations. So little civilian people like me have to work, maybe 20 times harder to try to compete? But hey, no one said this fight will be easy, right? It plans to work with news outlets that already produce long-form content for YouTube to jumpstart the creation of short-form news content. Hey, and I'm going to end that story there. Essentially, they're like, hey, news outlet, we're going to help you, or we're going to slant the algorithm in your favor so that way your influence gets in more control. Just in time for election season, huh? They're testing it. They're rolling out the algorithm now. And when it's time for the election, they get to craft their narrative the same way they did in 2020 when they shut down the Hunter Biden story. And if you were like me and you spoke about the Hunter Biden story, they can just shut you out, cut you off. Oh, we limited his impact. That's the game they're doing. They think it's stuff from the long term. How they can control the narrative in the long term and maintain that control. We all know all these news outlets, all these authoritarian sources preemptively killed off a story or killed exposure off to a certain story, and now they're doing it again, just in case something out of their control pops up. But I digress. So the next topic I want to kind of talk about, and now we're going to get into the meat of the video, the mindset of a conservative, or conservatism in a way, is I want to kind of get a bearing about the aspect of wisdom. What is wisdom? How you seek wisdom and how you gain wisdom. Because I think wisdom is a very important concept in conservatism. It's how do you learn that something is a bad idea or something is a good idea? Through experience, through testing it out, through, hey, I have a demonstrable fact that this is the case. And based on this demonstrable fact, I must change. I must change. Not because conservatives have this idea that the self is not the most important thing out there. There's things outside of yourself that matters more than what you personally think about these things. But I digress. Let's get into the video. It's How to Be Wise. This is a guy from a psychologist, and I like a lot of his content. I think I started watching him a couple days ago, and I like some of his insights here. I'm not gonna play the whole video. I'm just gonna play enough where he can drill in his points, and then I'll take it from there. Let's get into the video.
I certainly didn't learn them from a book, let alone grad school. And I usually respond that to the extent that I am wise through pain and insight. That's the secret recipe for wisdom: pain plus insight. Some people think that wisdom is simply the result of experience or age, and that is certainly not true. The world is full of old fools. That might feel disrespectful, but simply not dying does not automatically confer wisdom, nor does having a variety of experiences. Many people pass through their lives more or less on autopilot. Their various experiences don't register any more deeply than a factual memory. By the same token, simply experiencing pain is generally not sufficient to generate wisdom either. Here's why. While everyone experiences pain, most people have an incorrect attitude towards it.
I agree with that. And I think as a conservative, right, and this is pretty much a basic premise of conservatism, is that we are empiricists by nature, right? Our philosophy is grounded in empiricism. Empiricism is based on experience, based on what feedback you get from the reality, the test bed, which is reality. You make a judgment call, oh, this is a good idea or this is a bad idea. And conservatives will say, hey, we'll create stereotypes. We'll create pattern recognition and say, hey, let's not go there because someone died last time and I don't think that's a good idea for us to go that way. While liberals will be like, well, you're making a prejudgment. Like, you don't know for sure that's going to happen, right? And this is the game that liberalism and conservatism always fight back and forth against. That liberals think of things that ought to happen, how things ought to be, while conservatives tend to think of how things are and is, right? If you go over there, you will die. Liberals go, if you go over there, you might die, but you might not. And this is the game that's been parroting back and forth between, liberalism and conservatism, right? Yo, I just got here, and what's the topic about? The topic's about the mindset of a conservative. And I'm using the concept of wisdom and how you gain wisdom. And this is the guy's a psychologist. And I might make another point about psychology and therapists in another moment, but I'll rather continue with the video.
Pain is the gift that nobody wants. Pain is your greatest teacher in life. Pain is the universe giving you feedback that you need to pay attention to a particular aspect of your life, because pain is a signal that your model of reality is incorrect. And pain is your opportunity to bring that model into closer conformity with the way things really are.
And this is the battle I make mention. Liberalism, this is also a reason with socialists. Socialism they've been trying socialism all over the world. Hey, oh, it could work this time. It could work this time if only we did something a little bit different. And throughout history, every self-proclaimed socialist that attempted to bring in the usher in the utopia has failed and made the situation worse. And instead of owning up to that failure, socialists go, "Oh, that wasn't real socialism." As a logical person, right? To the pain we learn from the pain. All we have to do is look at history and all the killings and all the deaths and all the poverty that socialism has brought with it. As a rational person that knows history, you look back and be like, no, I'm not going to trust any socialist. I'm not going to give socialists any opportunity to try and usher in their socialism. Because it seems like every self-proclaimed socialist has never been able to actually bring in or usher in the real socialism. So any person that comes crawling across and say, oh, that wasn't real socialism, I know what is real socialism. How I know you're not the con artist compared to the other person. How I know your socialism is not going to end up being the worst thing since sliced bread. They don't. And this is what I'm talking about with pain and insights. I think conservatives, they don't have this perception that reality has to conform to my beliefs. I have to conform to what reality, what feedback I get from reality. This is why conservatives and Republicans tend to be religious, tend to have principles that exist outside of themselves, not merely for their own satisfaction. While liberals, they have an inverse view. They believe how they feel inside should be perpetrated in reality. And this is what makes them stand 10 toes down when you call them out on their hypocrisy. They don't care because, like, for instance, the vaccine, they believe in my body, my choice. But when the government was recommending the vaccine or forcing people to get the vaccine or to get fired, they were okay with it. Even though it goes contrary to a previous belief with the abortion issue. But they don't care about the hypocrisy because they think reality should conform to what they believe to be true. Right? And this is the type of people that don't gain wisdom. That's why I think liberals can't really gain wisdom. Why progressives can't really gain wisdom. And I think this is one of the reasons why also the black community tend to not improve or progress further from this stagnation that we have suffered for maybe 50 years since the Civil Rights Bill passed, is because black people can't get past that final hurdle because when they experience pain, they don't respond to the pain correctly. Like I made a video today. Poor judgment is the biggest issue in America, not race, not your identity, not whether you are a woman or a man, is poor judgment. Because your judgment has consequences. Action has consequences. Your decisions have consequences. And instead of acknowledging that, liberals not want to do any type of self-reflection. They'll say, no, it's because of the outside. Outside's the problem. I'm not the problem. And it's baffling me, but hey, that's liberalism for you. Let's continue with the video.
If you can alter your relationship with pain, you will accelerate your self-development 100-fold. So what prevents people from using the opportunity inherent in pain? Well, there are many potential obstructions, but 3 principal ones. The first principal obstruction is that some people are so stubborn or arrogant or ideologically possessed that they double down on their incorrect version of reality. They continue to believe that they're right despite their pain. They hold on to the belief that the way they think things should be is how reality should, in fact, operate.
Isn't this the same thing with the race narrative? When these liberals, black progressives come out and say, oh, it's racism. Racism is the reason why our people are down. It's not our decision making. It's not the fact that we don't know how to operate in a capitalistic system. And even when they recognize they can't operate in a capitalistic system, just because they haven't gotten good results in a capitalistic system, they want to change it into a socialist system, which in my view makes things worse for anybody, for everybody, because they couldn't succeed. It's like a sore loser. Oh, I'm not good at basketball. F basketball. Let's play this game. Let's change the game. It's the same thing. It's the same mentality that that liberals have. And he was kind of spitting over there. I want to continue because this is one of the reasons why men don't really go to therapy. Because with therapy, it seems like a lot of the ways therapists go about resolving or addressing issues, it's catered more towards women. While this guy and this guy makes this point in his video. Shout out to Psych Hacks. He makes the point of how a lot of men, when they bring up problems, they're looking for the problems to be resolved. And what a lot of therapists do is they sit more on a passive matter, like they want men to air out their grievances, air out their feelings and how the situation made them feel. But that's not what men go to therapy for. Men go to therapy to have the problem resolved, while women tend to go to therapy just to vent and express their feelings about the situation, but not necessarily looking for the situation to be resolved. And because the psychology profession is so geared towards women, this is why a lot of men don't go to therapy. And a lot of women on social media will go on this crusade saying men don't know how to express themselves. Men don't know how to be one with their feelings. Men don't know how to express their feelings or come into regards with their trauma or get therapy or all this stuff. They think it's because of some bravado. It's because men, for the most part, find therapy, most therapists, useless. This is why Jordan Peterson's so popular. Go clean your room. Action. Every prescription that Jordan Peter gives is based on action, and that's what men respond to. Give me something to do, not sit here and coddle me. And I think this is one of the big reasons why men don't go to therapy. But I digress. I'm going to play this video for one more minute, and then I'll go into what conservatism, the premises of conservatism, and I'll give some of my thoughts and some of my commentary before we continue in this video. Let's take a look. Let's get back into the video.
They chide reality for deviating from their models rather than hold their models accountable for deviating from reality. Pain is reality chiding you from having a deviant model. Do you understand? So arrogance and ideological possession can prevent people from entering into this opportunity. The second principal obstruction is that some people just see pain as something to bear. Now, there is a time and a place to grit your teeth and carry your cross and tolerate the pain of existence. But if you simply tolerate pain, if you simply bear it, then you might not cultivate any curiosity about why you may be in pain to begin with.
And I noticed a lot of progressives and liberals, they harness that. I don't know why I failed this test. I don't know why I was denied a banking loan. And they sit there in that pain, and instead of trying to figure out, okay, why did I get denied a loan? They look, I'm a black man. It must be because of racism. And they channel that pain in the wrong direction. And then they force corporations to give them the bank loan anyway. And then 12 years down the line, 2008 happened, or recession happened, and boom, you lost your house, and now you're in an even bigger debt problem. And then you look back and you go, damn, maybe it wasn't discrimination that I got denied the loan, but it's already too late. And some people don't even think that far. They just gonna think, I got set up. The system is against me. This is how a lot of people fall into these patterns of poor judgment. And I think this is a big problem in black culture, that it tends to look for confirmation. It's very emotionally driven, not very logical, not very reasonable. But I digress.
You just kind of think of it as a burden you need to carry for as long as you have to. And so the pain is sort of a wasted opportunity. What I've discovered is that a great deal of the pain that exists on this planet is due to the fact that people don't know why they're in pain. There's a saying that ignorance is bliss. No, it's not. A crying baby is not blissful. Most people are suffering because, like the infant, they don't know why they're suffering.
And I think that's a good place to end this video. Ignorance isn't bliss. Because when you're suffering through problems and you don't know what is the root cause of these problems that you face, essentially, it'll drive someone mad, someone insane. And this is what I believe many people on the left go through, because they base on very things on rationalism. They think they can arrive to their own conclusions without proof, without evidence. They think, oh, I can come to the truth on my own, when they don't realize a lot of their preconceived notions and assumptions are based on previous knowledge that's given to them through school, right? But they like to pretend that through their unaided reasoning, they were able to come to a conclusion at the same certain truths without the help of their experience. And this is what's been driven the ideological left for a long time. Now, I want to get into this book called Conservatism, right? And now I'm starting to get into the premises of conservatism and why I believe I'm a conservative. And I already got the pages bookmarked, but I kind of want to explain first the premises of Enlightenment liberalism. This is a very academic book, and I'm just going to go in through it real quick. The premise of Enlightenment liberalism are taught at every level of our education system. You study them in high school, in college, again in graduate programs in political theory. They're so perverse that many students often ask themselves whether these things are not just obvious truths, right? Bill Maher liked to say this quote of his, that reality has a liberal bias, because he believed that these ideas of liberalism are self-evident when they're not. Many find it difficult to imagine that there might be a different way of thinking about political life. And this is where conservatism come in. Because a lot of people, when I come out and I mention why I like being conservative, or this is why I believe, people say, oh, how's conservatism supposed to help America? Or if I get a black liberal or a black person, they'll go, how conservatism can help the black community? Well, it's a mindset. It's a worldview. So he continues trying to articulate what Enlightenment liberalism is. And here's his critique. Enlightenment liberalism is not self-evidently true. Alternative paradigms are possible. This is how progressives have been able to appropriate liberalism. Because liberals thought, oh, we on the truth. Reality has a liberal bias, says Bill Maher. But progressives are running your party right now. Progressives have so much power and influence over the grassroots Democrat that the liberals are like, how did we get from defenders of free speech to censoring free speech? Now we're labeling speech we don't like as hate speech. Now we're trying to compel speech. We're trying to force people to tell me or to go along with my narrative. And if they don't go along with my narrative, they're a bigot. They're a Nazi. It's insanity to me, right? And how quickly it changed too. And the liberals get mad when I call progressives liberals. And they're like, no, they're not real liberals. Well, you let them appropriate your position. Because one thing I noticed, and the biggest flaw about liberalism that I noticed as a personal, as someone who's in a community that's 90% favorable to their worldview, is that liberals are very good at critiquing ideas. I'll give them that. Liberals are very good at critiquing ideas, but liberals suck at defending them, because their whole premise of liberalism is based on the idea that you fight against the status quo. While conservatives' basic default stance is you trying to protect status quo, right? So pretty much you give a rationale for why we need to change from the status quo. Conservatives tend to give a rationale why we need to maintain status quo. And I look at it like this, because I look at it like a team. Liberals need conservatives and conservatives need liberals. Why? Conservatives prevent society from regressing into outdated and ideas that's already been proven false. For example, men cannot be women. Conservatives are the biggest outcriers against this. While liberals go, well, are you sure? Are you sure that's not an assumption? Right? They challenge the status quo. Now, it always keeps you on your feet to make sure that the current ideas are still applicable today. But there's certain things that conservatives realize that is unchangeable, unmovable. Human nature, human biology, that's never changing. And to question it, bro, liberals, you need to touch grass, because liberals think about things of how it ought to be. But, I'm rambling too long. Let's get into the book. Alternative paradigms are possible, and these can have significant advantage over the liberal view. One such alternative is the conservative paradigm. We're getting into the meat of the middle of the video, which underpins most of the nationalist and realist critique of liberalism that has been articulated in America and Europe in recent years. Now, in this book, he lists out 6 premises, and I'll go through each of them. Here are the 6 premises of conservatism. Men are born into families, tribes, and nations to which they are bound by ties of mutual loyalty. There's a big word, mutual loyalty, because this is not a collective. Like I like to say that conservatism is not a collectivist idea. Because some people like to say that conservatism is just progressivism doing the speed limit. No, it's not. It's a completely different philosophy. It's a completely different idea. Progressives think you as the individual must do what's best for the collective, period. If I'm a black man, it don't matter if I'm wealthy, if I'm doing well off, if I got a family of mixed kids, it don't matter. I have to do what's in the best interest of the collective, even if it's at the cost to my family. That's what the progressives believe. Oh, you a black man. We're supposed to stand together. That's what progressives will say. But as a conservative, I understand that people have mutual loyalty to who? Their family, then their community, then their nation. And as a conservative, and this is what makes a lot of people conservative, you have a mutual interest in your society, in your country. And this is the problem with liberals, and this is how liberals lost the plot, and this is how the liberals lost the culture to progressives and the socialists and these extremist people, is because they call out the weakness of liberalism. And liberalism only care about what? The individual. Liberalism does not acknowledge the reality that you're not born by yourself. You're born within a group. And progressives, this is how progressives come over here and beat liberals over the head, and how progressives have taken over the Democratic Party. This is why I said liberals are not good at defending their ideas, because the liberals say, oh, I believe in absolute free speech. Then a progressive will come, okay, if a racist come out and said that black people are inferior to white people, should we protect their speech? Liberals will, because liberals are stuck, because liberals have this, like I said, savior complex. Liberals have this need to feel morally superior to other people. So a liberal will say, well, it depends. Oh, we should have his rights to say it. And then the progressive will say, okay, we need to give him consequences. Oh, okay, that's fine. I'm fine with that, as long as you don't censor his speech. And then you get into this downward spiral, and next thing you know, liberals are calling for censorship on ideas they don't like, because liberals fold to progressives, and conservatives can attack the same critique as well. You have an obligation to your country. You have an obligation to your community that helped raise you and to become the person you are, because you wouldn't become the individual without being without being raised by your family, without being raised by your community. And in a sense, there's a mutual interest to better your community, because if your community is better, it gives you, the individual, more opportunities in life. And this is the conservative ideal. Sorry. So that's premise 1. I know I kind of went on a little rant there, but this is interesting. I'm trying to articulate what are the premises of conservatism, because that's a question I get a lot on my comment section sometimes, especially people who don't agree with me. They go, oh, what is conservatism anyway? If I don't know what conservatism is, what conservatism is to you, Kenny, well, this is the video for you. Okay, here's the second premise. Individuals, families, tribes, and nations compete for honor, importance, and influence until a threat or a common endeavor recalls them to mutual loyalties that bind them to one another. So pretty much the whole concept is competition is important, because competition is a functional benefit to a community. Progressives don't like competition, because competition breeds inequity. And from a conservative point of view, inequity is not necessarily evil. It's a certain kind of inequity that is evil. We believe everyone should have a shot, equal opportunity. We don't not believe in equal outcome. And this is where the competition point comes in, because if we compete amongst each other, for instance, here's an example of this is how I'm playing out this is how I'm playing out the idea. If you have one team of basketball players, two teams of basketball players, both teams have same level of skill, size, age, whatever. One team, let's call it conservative team, they compete amongst each other for the job. So everyone competes to be starters. While in the progressive team, they all get a shot at being a starter, regardless of how they do in practice. Who's going to usually be the better team? The conservative team, because each person that starts for that team was the best player, and they had to prove that they were the best player. Demonstrable evidence. Imperialism. They had to demonstrate that they were the best player. And the only way you can demonstrate if you're the best for the job is to compete. While in the progressive realm, they think, we're gonna put this woman here, we're gonna put this short person here, we're gonna put this gay person here. It don't matter if they're actually the best person. It just matters about, hey, it doesn't. This is rationalism. It shouldn't matter who starts, because end of the day, as a team, we'll win. Diversity is our strength, and then they get blown out by the conservative team because the conservative team didn't play that. They played by meritocracy because it rises the quality, because everyone gets better. Name the first time you got better by yourself. You don't. When you work out with somebody, when you work out with another individual and you compete, it rises your level of skill as well, because you're competing against somebody. You're getting feedback. Failure gives feedback. Mistakes give feedback. And competition allows you to correct it or expose those mistakes or those shortcomings, and gives you an opportunity, like we mentioned in the psychology video here, how to become wise. You experience pain. You experience that pain of, oh damn, I lost my spot to this other person. And you have an opportunity to respond. How are you going to respond to that pain? Are you going to use that pain to get better? Or are you going to use that pain to shy away and get worse? And this is essentially what conservatism utilizes competition for. It utilizes competition to better the group. And then when the group has to come together, aka play against another team, they're better for it. So this is the conservative view on competition, I guess. Here's premise 3 for conservatism. Families, tribes, and nations are hierarchically structured. Their members have importance and influence to the degree they are honored within the hierarchy. It's the same. It's pretty much an extension of premise 3 with the basketball example. Oh, he's the starting point guard. That comes accolades with that. That comes a certain assumption, honor, influence with that. Oh, he's a starter because he's the best for the job. He's the best person for that position. So he's going to get the contracts. He's going to get the playing time, right? He's going to get the most money if it was the NBA. Because of what? Because he produced more. He's more valuable. He contributes more to the team, so therefore he gets paid more in the team. But if you go on the progressive team, that's not how it works. Everyone gets equal playing time. Everyone gets equal pay, regardless of your position. It don't matter if LeBron James scored 30 points. He's still getting paid the same as the guy sitting on the bench, never getting into the game. Incentives. But I digress. Let's get into it. Number 4, language, religion, law, and the forms of government and economic activity are traditional institutions developed by families, tribes, and nations as they seek to strengthen their material prosperity, internal integrity, and cultural inheritance, and to propagate themselves throughout future generations. This is why there's a big a push in conservatism to have children, to have the family, because we recognize that the individual is essentially the core of a family, and families are the core of a community, and a community is the core of a nation, and this is how you get America. So that means if there's any flawed or bad piece along that hierarchy, it'll go bottom up and ruin the country. And that's what's going on right now. This is why I say marriage is not the foundation of society. Culture is. Because if you have a culture that's pushing individuals to be the best that they can be, compete, be the best individual for the job, American excellence, that's a culture. If you have an individual that's upholding to American excellence, then that individual, it bubbles up out of society. Let's say I find another person, my wife, and she believes in American excellence. Then we have kids and we raise them in the culture of American excellence, and they go out and they have kids. It bubbles up, and eventually that's how the country becomes exceptional. But then if you put in a culture where, oh, you shouldn't compete that hard. Oh, 4-hour work weeks. Oh, be as lazy as possible. Oh no, let the government take care of you. Oh no, don't work too hard. You're going to suffer burnout. If you have a culture like that, what's going to happen? It's going to degrade the quality of the people that are functioning in your society. Look at America. All you have to do is look at America. Look at America, how Americans were in the 1960s during John F. Kennedy. Look at boys, especially men in high school. Look how they look and look how we look now. We got an obesity problem in America now. Why? Because we have a culture that's slothful, decadent, weak. There's a reason why there's this phrase that hard men create good times. Strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. There's a reason that saying exists. And it's a culture. This is why we have kids. Hey, we want to influence the future generation of children. This is why liberals have less kids than conservatives. Conservatives have what? For every one liberal that has kids, conservatives have 1.55 more kids than the liberal. So we're gonna outpopulate them soon, and we're trying to tell them, hey, stop aborting your kids. Hey, stop doing this. We're gonna have childless marriages. Why are you doing that? Like, what's the purpose of marriage? Just be single. We calling out saying, hey, look, you're literally killing your ideology because you're not gonna influence my kids. And when conservatives push back against the parental rights and education bill, when conservative parents push back against the values that a public school or government schools are trying to teach their children, they want to get mad when conservative parents in 20 years, 30 years are going to be the majority of parents in this country. That's culture. That's the value of culture. And that's what conservatism thinks about. You do things in the prosperity, the material prosperity of your people, of your family, right? You do what's best for them. And this is kind of the things that I use internally to judge Black progress. Are Black people doing anything that propagates the next generation into a better position? No, they're not. Not since the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement was the last time that the previous generation of Black people set up the future generation of Black people for better opportunities than they got. That's the last time that happened. All the current previous generations of Black, they merely use the circumstances of their race to benefit themselves and their family at the expense of other Black people, and set the Black people up for even worse conditions. Single motherhood was less than almost 80% married in the 1930s. And then you saw after the 1960s, when the war on the Great Society Act passed by Lyndon B. Johnson, you saw that the single motherhood rate jumped from 25% to 55%, 65%, and now it's at damn near 72% now. And I told you all the negative setbacks for having a culture that produced a bunch of single mothers: higher rates of crime, higher rates of poverty, less access to education because it's tied to poverty, right? And then when people say, oh, it's poverty is the reason why Black people are committing so much crimes. No, single motherhood has incentivized that behavior because there's no stewardship over the kids. If the parent's not there, your values are not going to be transmitted to the kids. Someone else is going to transmit values to your kids, and that's usually public school. That's why I think public school is such a racket. That's why public school is some of the worst institutions to put Black kids in. In a conservative culture, if Black community was conservative, there will be a culture inside the community saying, hey, putting our kids into public school is the worst possible choice to ever do. Let's homeschool our kids. Hey, we're going to make sacrifices so that way the next generation is better off compared to where we were at, because we have to learn from this mistake and not pass this mistake on to the next future. That's a conservative ideal. This is how conservatism helped the Black community, or any community. All you have to do is replace Black with whatever ethnicity you are: Spanish, Asian. Every community has their own little problems that they themselves have to deal with. So here's the last two. Now, I'm not going to go into a rant here, but political obligation is a consequence of membership in family, tribes, and nation. So how conservatives see, this is why conservatism is usually based in some religious community or patriotism, is that it's a mutual benefit. Hey, if I'm a member of a club, I have certain obligations to that club to make it better. I gain a benefit for being part of this club, and the club gets a benefit of having me on it. That's how conservatives kind of see the relationship between America and the individual. And this is why conservatives tend to get mad about, oh, we need to balance the budget. Yo, we're $33 trillion in debt, is because we're seeing that, we're destroying our country, and the next generation is going to have to deal with the problems that we created, and we ain't going to be around to fix it. Or we ain't going to be around to get punished by those bad policies. Conservatives tend to think about the future because they have kids, and liberals don't have kids. So liberals are less inclined to think about the future. And that's what kind of destroyed the Black community. The Black community didn't care about what actions they're doing at that moment that would affect the future generations of Black people. They just cared about, no, I gain a benefit from it now. If I get reparations now, who cares if my great grandkids have to suffer through record high inflation? We got to benefit from our reparations check. And that kind of mindset destroys your community. Right? You're caring about you're caring about yourself at the expense of your community. And if the community cares about itself at the expense of the individual, they're both wrong in my eyes. And that's how I see reparations. But I digress. These premises are derived from experience and may be challenged and improved upon in light of experience. So this is where liberalism is needed for conservatism. Conservatism admit that, hey, I only know these things because I test them in reality and I got a certain result, and that's what I'm following. But if you come to a different conclusion, we got this new spanking idea, conservatives will test it. And if they say, oh yeah, that is a better idea, liberal, we'll adopt it. And now we will preserve that idea. That's essentially how liberalism and conservatism worked hand in hand with each other. Conservatives will test these fringe ideas that the liberal have. And if the liberal happen to strike twice, right? Like, a broken clock is right twice. If a liberal happens to be right about an issue, the conservatives will adopt it. And now the conservatives' job is to preserve that idea. But that's not what's happening now. And it's insane. But let's continue with the book. And then I'm almost done. And then we'll get into some videos about the black community and stuff. These conservative paradigms are by now less familiar than those of liberalism, but they are not entirely unfamiliar. Many of us learned something like this from this view of political world from our parents and grandparents, or from the Bible and other religious communities to which we belong to. Others encounter similar views while taking part in electoral politics or government, where our mentors were often more realistic about political life than our teachers in school and university. And this is a big problem. In our current political discussion, academia has a lot of influence over political policy. Modern monetary theory, anyone? These ideas are not tested. In academia, they're protected from empirical evidence. They never show any use case or any practical use for their ideas. They just think, oh, we should try it this way. And everyone's like, oh, that's not like a good idea. Let's just go for it. No. And is this acceptance to try out unproven theories without a result has got us into this pathway now today. But I digress. Let's continue with the book. And there's certainly academic disciplines that discuss elements within this framework as well. Yet this conservative political framework is rarely recognized for what it plainly is, an alternative way of thinking about political life, which is the case. The conservative paradigm regards political order as hierarchical in nature, consisting of multiple levels and individuals born into a family, which combines with other families to form a clan. Today, that would be a community or a congregation. Clans combine to form a tribe, and within the alliances of tribe, that together constitutes a nation. And that's what's going on in our multi-ethnic republic. We got bunch of different groups, different tribes. We got white tribes, we got the Asian tribes, we got the Hispanic tribes, we got the black tribes. And we all constitute a nation, like it or not. So when the Democrats come out here and they try to, here's some benefits specifically for black people, you're causing division in the country by creating specific policies for one specific group of people. While conservatives, and this is how conservatives think, what's going to be best for all these tribes. And here's the opportunity. If you tribes want to take part of the opportunity, you're all welcome to try, but this is the standard to take advantage of this opportunity. Hey, we're giving an incentive for you to start businesses. Black people will be like, oh, these Republicans never make policies for us. What are you talking about? If you start a business, you can take advantage of this. No, they want the conservatives and the Republicans to act just like the Democrats. Oh, here's something we handcrafted for you. And then in a realistic world, the Asians, the whites, and the Hispanic tribes will look at that and be like, they shouldn't be getting special treatment. And they'll war against that tribe for trying to sway things specifically for their favor. But that's not what's happening because of the culture. Now you got intersectionality and all this other nonsense. But, I feel like I went on a rant there about conservatism. So we're going to go into why do some groups stay at the bottom, which is Thomas Sowell. I love referencing Thomas Sowell. So let's get into the video and give my voice a break because you guys need to hear someone else's voice other than mine. Let's take a look.
It may sound noble to say that cultures are merely different, not better or worse in any way, and that it is all a matter of perceptions and preferences. But this argument contradicts itself by saying that one way of looking at cultural differences is better. the way of cultural relativism preferred by a fringe of contemporary intellectuals, rather than the way preferred by the vast majority of other human beings around the world, and down through the centuries. These cultural differences do not matter only if cause and effect do not matter. But those who wish to be spared the devastation...
And this is the case. Cause and effect matters. And the liberals don't like a lot of liberals don't like that. And even the concept of cause and effect, a lot of black people will say cause and effect is something white people do, or they try to attribute that concept to white culture. Oh, that's not part of our culture, so we delegitimize that concept. Baffling. Essentially using racism to just, it's crazy. Because this concept is considered coming from white culture, you disregard its validity because it challenges a notion that you hold view, right? For instance, cause and effect. Okay, how's the system causing you to disproportionately victimize your own people? How are you going to blame high crime rates of crime on poverty? Cause and effect. Because they don't want to test they don't want to have any logic to what they believe. They just want to feel the way they feel. And that's confirmation bias. That's dogma. If I can't challenge your question, if I can't question your answer, then it's dogma. You're trying to get me to conform to a view. If all black people thought the same about racism, are you really thinking about racism? Like, think about that. If we all just thought the same way about racism, are we really thinking about it? Or are we just accepting a message? Oh, this is the reason why you have problems. Oh, yeah, of course. It's not the fact that I make bad decisions and I'm just getting the outcome, the consequences of those bad decisions. No, it's the system. The system's out to get me. Of course. Regardless if you see another black man who did an opposite decision from you and he got a different result from you, he got a better result than you. Oh, no. You try to explain that away. Oh, he's not really black. This is why some groups stay at the bottom. Because we want to do this relativism. Oh, every culture is equal. No, your culture matters based on the results. If your culture produces a certain result and it's a negative result that's holding back your community, you have to change it. That's what conservatives believe. Remember, we just went through it with the wisdom. That's how you gain wisdom. Based on the pain you get, you have to make a response. How are you going to respond to that pain? Will you stop doing the actions that got you into that position? Or you're going to double down, triple down and say, no, I'm going to continue doing this dumb decision, this dumb consequence. And that's what the black culture has been incentivizing black people to do. Let's keep having kids out of wedlock. Oh, how's that working out for you? Inflation is making it harder and harder for people to live by themselves as a single person, but you want to keep making single parent households? How that make sense? And but that's culture. This is why some groups stay at the bottom. And all I'm saying is you're not at the bottom because of your race. You're at the bottom because of the behaviors that your culture has incentivized you to do. Facts. But I digress. Let's continue.
Stations of diseases which have plagued the human race from time immemorial must either have the cultural capital of modern medical science themselves or have access to others who do. Smallpox, for example, continued to ravage the peoples of Eastern Europe and the Balkans long after vaccination had brought it under control elsewhere in Europe, because this was one of the many forms of cultural capital that came belatedly to these regions. Even after modern medicine became accessible to the poorer peoples of Europe, the same diseases continued to ravage poorer peoples more remote from the centers of Western medical advancement. It was not just a matter of perceptions and preferences. Widely varying amounts and kinds of cultural capital make economic and social disparities among groups and nations virtually inevitable. Yet the political temptation is to overlook the causal influences of differences in cultural capital, which often go far back into history, and instead to attribute these disparities to current failures of society. For example, the head of the leading black civil rights organization in the United States declared in 1994, "Almost half of all African American children live in poverty. Black unemployment is twice that of whites. The infant mortality rate in many black communities is equal to that of many third world nations. The statistics for housing, crime, and education deliver a tragic statement of despair and inequality."
It's not, see, and this is the difference. It's not inequality. It's just the result of the previous generation of blacks' decisions, right? You guys stop making businesses. You guys want to be unemployed. What about the education level? Like, let me go back. Look, 'cause this is a damn shame. Look, Black progress, how far we came and how far we have to go, right? So this is what they're talking about. Progress is largely suppressed story of the race and racism relations over the past half century, because this is news that more than 40% of Africans are now considered themselves member of the middle class. This is during 1964, I believe. 42% owned their own homes, a figure that rose to 75% if you look just at Black married couples. Black two-parent families earned only 13% less than those of whites. Amongst a third of Black population lived in the suburbia. Because these facts are solemnly reported, the Black underclass continues to define Black America in a view of much of the public. Many assume Blacks live in ghettos, often in high-rise public housing projects. Crime and welfare checks are seen as their main source of income. The stereotypes crosses racial lines. Blacks are even more prone than whites to exaggerate the extent to which Africans are trapped in inner city poverty. Narrative versus results, right? This is cause and effect. Oh, this is the reality. Look, 1964, the craziness, right? Yeah, sorry. I have to cut this out, but yeah. In 1991, Gallup poll showed that about 1/5 of all whites, but almost half of Black respondents said that at least 3 out of 4 African Americans were impoverished urban residents. I bet you if you do the same Gallup poll, it might be even more. And yet, in reality, Blacks who are considered themselves to be middle class outnumber those with incomes below the poverty line. That means there were more middle class Blacks in 1991 than there were in poverty. But they still want to push this narrative that, oh, all of us are in abject poverty. Oh, the reason why the crime rates in the Black community is so high is because of poverty. Malarkey. But this is the narrative they want you. This is the answer that they don't want people to question. They don't want people to have scrutiny over. The minute you challenge it, they want to call you names. They want to call you a coon. They want to call you a sellout. But they ain't calling you a liar, though. That's what I noticed. But, I digress. Let's continue with the video.
Yet in polls, more than 60% of whites say Blacks now have equal opportunity. The very possibility that these disparities might be due to cultural differences affecting behavior and attitudes, or to differences in the human capital brought into the workplace, rather than to the behavior of the larger society, received no attention whatever, either in this statement or in much of the media or the academic world. Yet, when all this was being said, Black American married couples with college degrees were at the same income level as white American married couples with college degrees. Even a quarter of a century earlier, Black males raised in homes with books and library cards were at the same income level as white males raised in homes with similar advantages and similar education.
Your advantages don't come from your skin color. It comes primarily from your family, because your family is your tutorial. They teach you how the world works, right? And if your family is in a good financial standing, or they have good information and they impart into you good information, you'll have a good outcome. That's not the case in the Black community. This is where culture comes in. Reading at a 3rd grade level is seen as the mark in our American society. Black boys are less likely to meet that mark. Why? Who reads the Black kids who are primarily raised by single moms, right? Like, I like this problem. Like, whenever something goes wrong with the kid, single moms like to blame the father when they have a monopoly on who raises these Black boys. And then the women of their son's generation will complain about how these boys are mama's boys. But you don't want to point at the finger at the source of that problem. Single moms. Boys who are raised with books in the homes make the same amount of income as whites who have the same attributes. To me, that sounds like behavior drives your outcomes, not your skin color. But progressives don't want to hear it. The Black liberal don't want to hear it. No, it's because of your race, ninja. Okay.
While infant mortality rates were higher among Blacks in general than among whites in general, infant mortality rates among Black intact families were lower than among white female-headed families, even when those white females had more education than Black females living with their husbands. In short, lifestyle differences have had major impacts on social misfortunes, though only minor impact on much thinking about those misfortunes. The issues reach beyond questions of blaming a group or assigning guilt to society. Future improvements depend upon how much of present efforts go into developing the internal resources of a group and how much into seeking political changes in the surrounding society. The implications of cultural development, as well as cultural differentiation, affect not only such issues as intergroup differences in economic progress, but also race and racism as factors in such progress.
Yep. Facts. Right? You can't. And this is why I'm against affirmative action, because essentially affirmative action is just sugarcoating the problem. It's not really addressing the problem. Right? And really, the black people that benefit the most from affirmative action are upper class blacks that come from a 2-parent household, blacks that come with educated parents. You just make the people with advantages have more advantages. In some cases, you make the black kid coming from a middle class household having an unfair advantage over white people that come from a lower class income area, because you make this prejudgment. Oh, he's a white kid, he's a black kid, we gotta give this black kid special treatment. But you don't know that kid's come from a rich black family, and this white kid come from a poor white family. But based on race, the black kid is more disadvantaged. Affirmative action really is racism under new management. I tell you this, guys. I really do tell you this. But, black people, like I said, we already proved it. Black people tend to exaggerate the poverty that their fellow other black people are experiencing. And if I dare make the claim or the statement that I think black people are exaggerating the effects of racism as a whole in our society, I'll get called names for that. Well, I digress. So you guys know my favorite author, Rob Woodson. I don't know why I keep calling him by his full name, but Bob Woodson. He had a video where he talked about the top 5 issues for black people, and I might skip around because this is I want to get into the main video. Is about the traitors to their race are I digress. A lot going on today. Let's get back into the video. Let's get into the video.
Go and look up 2 articles. One, I want to see what ACLU says about the problem of black Americans, and then I go look up PragerU. Okay, I'm sure you're familiar with both organizations. Mm-hmm. So let's go through the ACLU one. If you can kind of pull that one up first, Rob, that'd be great. Okay, so go all the way to the top of the article so we can kind of read what it says. So here's ACLU, 5 truths about black history. If we want to understand the state of race in America, we need to know our past, particularly the painful parts. Okay, so to go down now and zoom in on what it says. Go up, go, keep going. America was founded on white supremacy.
Okay, look, you're already going to disagree right here. America was founded on white supremacy is a false statement. That's not the truth. Because if you look, like this is based on 1619, right? First slaves arrived in 1619. In 1620, there was a slave owner called Anthony Johnson. Guess what the ethnicity of this guy named Anthony Johnson was? He was a black man. So tell me, explain to my conservative butt, how does a black man in 1620 own slaves and he himself is a black man if America was founded on white supremacy? How is a country that's supposed to be founded on a racial supremacy group allow someone of a other racial supremacy group to own or be in the same status and stature as the dominant race in society? Explain that to me. And how can you, and then here's the other thing, how you can blame all of America in white supremacy when technically the idea and concept of America didn't exist until 1776. And the slaves were merely a holdover from Britain. So wouldn't this be a Britain problem? Why are you contributing it to America? That's something I want to know. That's all I want to know. That's all I want to know.
This is what ACLU says straight up. The first slave arrived here in 1619. Again, going back to the 1619 project. Between 1619 and 1865, Virginia passed more than 130 slave statutes to regulate the ownership of black people. In a 1662 law made all children of enslaved mothers slaves, regardless of the father's race or status, or that rape by white slave masters could create a free child. A 1667 law codified that slaves who
contributing this all to America when we were essentially, they were just settlers in a colony then, right? But white supremacy. Okay.
Converted to Christianity were still slaves.
And here's another question: how did the black slaves arrive there in 1619? Oh, Africa, right? Oh, okay. But nothing about Africa. You wanna complain about the symptoms of the problem, but you want to acknowledge that how the Pan-Africanists, that's what I like about the Pan-African community. They talk about, we love everything Africa, but they don't want to acknowledge the history of Africa, because no black slave will ever exist on the continent of America if Africans never sold slaves in the first place. And before the white man appeared on the coast of Africa, your ancestors were probably already slaves because of in-tribal fighting on the continents of Africa. Slavery is a human sin. It's throughout human history. You can't name one country, one civilization that did not have slaves. At least the more notable ones. But you want to try to make it, or this framing, want to frame it as something uniquely American. Oh, I laugh hard at that. That's crazy.
1669 law allowed slaves to be killed for resisting authority, right? Okay, go lower. Let's go to the next one. So this article is ACLU. Next one.
And then before that, there was the free blacks, right? Essentially, that's what Anthony Johnson was. He was a free black. And he owned black slaves. There was more than just him out there. But America was a white supremacy country. Oh, okay. Okay. And then the funny part is they want to claim that America is a racist country. And then when I ask the question, who was the source of America's racism? Because it had to come from somewhere. It was a certain party that was pushing white supremacy, slavery, defending slavery, went to war for slavery, the Democratic Party. But they never want to dig into that. They want to, spread the blame around, because not all of America agreed with slavery. There are some people who were neutral on slavery, some people adamantly against slavery, and some people who was pro-slavery. The same way we were pro-abortion, anti-abortion, neutral, same concept was in slavery. But they never want to dig deep and tell you, oh, this is the party that was the source of all of America's racism. Because it was a certain group of people. They never want to designate that because they're part of the team. This is false framing here. But it's supposed to be the truth. Hey, I digress. But this is the idea, but YouTube would say that's an authoritarian of sources.
Terrorism, even if we refuse to acknowledge it, okay? And it explains terrorism on what's going on. The largest terrorist attack in Oklahoma was not the federal building in Oklahoma City in 1995. It was down the road in Tulsa in 1921. The Green Hood neighborhood of Tulsa, Oklahoma was unique. In the early 20th century, it was referred to the Black Wall Street and was home to Black and Native Americans who had become wealthy from old discoveries.
And who destroyed Tulsa? Tulsa Democrats destroyed Tulsa. But why they don't mention that? They just say white residents, right? This is the Democrats trying to spread the blame around again. Insanity. You see all this framing? They lie by admitting certain facts. They don't dig too deep, and they try to allow your imagination to assume, right? I assume that all of white America was in on this. No. Oh, it was just a geographical problem. No. The North was against freeing the slaves too. All you have to do is look at the votes for the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment of the Constitution after the Civil War. For the first two, 13th and 14th, I believe some Northern Democrats voted for it. On the 15th one, no Northern Democrat voted for that amendment. But they want to put out this narrative that slavery was only prominent for the Southerners. But in reality, it was the platform of the Democratic Party. That's the history of the Democratic Party. But they don't have that same pressure on the Democratic Party like they do for America. Oh, America was a racist country. But they don't go, Democrats are a racist party. Look at the history of the Democratic Party. We cannot get past the solutions of this country. We cannot move forward until we reconcile with the oppression and the racism of the Democratic Party. Nope, you never hear them talking like that, but they talk the same way about America. Crazy. They don't want to acknowledge that America used to be its greatest oppressor, but is now its biggest liberator. It's the best place to be black, being in America. But you support a party that was the source of that oppression. That's my argument. If it don't matter, America had slaves. Okay. It don't matter. Democrats were the party of slave owners. They defended slavery. They're willing to die for slavery. because they saw you as their property, and they still see you as their property. All they did was change their messaging. Instead of discriminating against you, now they discriminate for you. All you have to do is look at affirmative action. Who pushes affirmative action? Democrats. They just changed the racism now. Based on the color of your skin, you get special treatment. When before they changed your vote because now they see you as a means to an end. Oh yeah, if we get these people could be the deal break, the decider of if we in the White House or the doghouse, according to Michael X. So they play the game. They say, okay, let's do these special favors for them. I'm gonna have these ninjas voting Democrat for 200 years. LBJ, racist Democrat, calling his black driver the N-word. Telling him he better get used to it because he'll always be an N-word. That's Lyndon B. Johnson, the Democrat president that they love to cheer as the one that signed the Civil Rights Bill, but don't want to acknowledge that Republicans was the majority that passed the bill. Lyndon B. Johnson had to fight his own party to get that bill passed, but they don't want to tell you that history. They want to bring up, America was a racist country, but they never bring up Democrats was a racist party. And it got so bad now, like we don't know American history so much that it gets to the point that Democrats project their racist history onto the Republican Party. This is where you get the idea of a switch, when a switch never happened in history, in the party's history. No switch has ever happened. But I'm supposed to believe them, right? But these are supposed to be the truths. No, these are half truths. Half truths are you leave out some crucial information that will change the perspective of how someone will look at the article. The largest terrorist attack in Oklahoma was not at the federal building in Oklahoma City. It was out Tulsa. It was referred to as Black Wall Street, home to blacks and Native Americans who became wealthy from oil discovery. Right? White residents so when you hear the paragraph, white residents were disturbed by the growing wealth in the black community. If I put white Democrats, you get a different context, and it's a more accurate context. But they say white because they want to spread the bidding more because they want to hold on to this narrative about America being a racist country, when all of America did not agree with slavery. Is this like? Let me ask you, like, this is what I'm talking about as a conservative. Are they trying to teach you history, or are they trying to teach you propaganda? Because this is propaganda. What I just pointed out, this is propaganda. There's no truth here anywhere. It's augmented facts. We give you some of the truth, but we don't give you all of the truth. But if you have all of the truth, you will have a more accurate assessment of the information. This is my problem. But if I point this out, I'm a coon because I'm going against your narrative, because it benefits you right now to vote Democrat. And then you want to use your virtue signaling, you want to use this history to justify some of the policies that the Democrats are pushing for. Let's talk about reparations. Democrats stopped reparations. And reparations would have gone to the people that actually suffered slavery. And guess who's going to have to pay for the slavery? Most of that reparations, the Democrats. They didn't want it. So what they do? Assassinate Abraham Lincoln. His VP, who was a Democrat, by the way, revoked the proclamation. And black people lost their right to get reparations. A Democrat did that. So, but y'all don't want to go that far down into history. Y'all want to pick and choose, cherry pick what part of history you want to expose, but you don't want to show the entire context. And then when Rob DeSantis come in here and try to show the entire context, y'all want to get mad that he said that slaves gained some benefit from slavery. Nothing's ever 100%. I would think people will know that. I would think people will understand nuance, but I guess it's lost on us in our society now. But I digress. I think I rambled too much on this point. Let's continue with the last 3 points.
And then it goes to saying white residents were disturbed by the growing black wealth and sought to impose official segregation measures. In 2014, Tulsa passed a law that forbade anyone from living on a block where more than 3/4 of the pre-existing residents were from another race. Okay, so let's go a little bit. If somebody wants to read more, we'll put the link below. Next. So keep going. Then we have a war was fought for slavery. By 1860, America had 4 million slaves, worth a total of $3 billion of today's currencies. Okay, let's go to the next one.
Who are all owned by Democrats. They don't tell you that point though. They don't tell you that though. When the Republican Party was founded, not a single Republican owned a slave. At the time of the founding in 1860 of the Republican Party, not a single Republican owned a slave. But they want to put up this narrative that America was a racist country. America was founded on white supremacy. But literally, I articulate there's two sides to this. Two people disagreed on this issue, but you want to spread the blame onto the entire country. Make that make sense. But I digress,
Go to the next one. Francis Scott Key was an avowed white supremacist. Keep going to the next one, which is the last one. Reparations for slavery have already been paid, okay? On April 16, 1862, more than 8 months before he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, Abraham Lincoln signed a bill ending slavery in the District of Columbia. It provided for immediate emancipation of slaves and compensation to slave owners loyal to the Union of up to $300 for each freed slave. Over the next 9 months, the Board of Commissioners appointed to administer the act approved petitions completely or in part for former owners of Freedom 2989 former slaves. Lincoln administration paid about $1 million to slave owners in D.C. for the loss of property. If you don't know some of these facts before reading them here, what else don't you know about the hidden truths of Black American history?
Yeah, I agree with the last part. What else hidden truths you don't know about the Black American history? Right? Ex-slaves died millionaires. You don't know that truth. Our literacy rate jumped. There's a lot of. We had 2 Black Wall Streets. We had one in Tulsa, one in Durham, North Carolina. We started businesses. We essentially had a parallel economy by ourselves. That's why the white Democrats was disturbed because they said, these ninjas are actually doing it on their own. They're actually challenging our supremacy. We thought we were better than them, but look at them. We stop them from going to our hotels, and they have the goal to go out and make their own hotels. But I digress. Let's hear what Rob has to say. Bob has to say.
Okay, so that's ACLU. Now let's go to Prager. Here's what PragerU says. The top 5 issues facing Black Americans. Number 5, victim mentality. Okay.
Showing both sides. I like this, right? You show the progressive side. This is what the progressives believe. Here's what I kind of believe in this. I believe in this. All right, let's see.
Not holding someone back from more than seeing himself as a victim. Why? Because a victim is not responsible for a situation.
Ding, 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 ding. It's an alibi. Black people today, a lot of them are using race as an alibi. They're using racism as an alibi. Oh, why are you not where you are at life? Oh, because the white man was on my neck. White man holding me back. White man don't even know you exist, but you sure as hell think he's holding you back. Like, this is what I'm saying. Black people are looking outwards instead of looking inwards. Oh, how can I better my situation? How can I better my community? No, instead, he's looking at someone to blame. Oh, it's not fair. You grew up in a 2-parent household. White privilege. Oh, you wasting your white privilege. You don't end up becoming nothing. If a white person can become poor in this country, maybe it's not because their skin color is the reason why they're successful in the first place. Maybe it's something else. Black people don't ever think about that. Instead, if they see a poor white person, they'll be like, oh, you wasted your white privilege. You have all this opportunity. There go those assumptions again. Black people's culture and these dogmas are all built on assumptions. This is why they don't like people questioning them. Because the minute you question them, they're on YouTube. Oh, look at it. Oh, Uncle Tom. Oh. They put the raccoon emojis. Oh, I don't care. You ain't calling me a liar, though. Because you can't dispute these facts. You can't challenge these facts. It seems like the black community, the victim mentality is just you looking for confirmation. This is dogma. You want me to conform? You want me to go along with this nonsense when I know it's nonsense? When I know you failed the test, not because the math is racist, it's because you never study. You're wasting your time trying to play a fake drug dealer on the street, and then you come to school, you don't care about school, you don't consider school important, you don't consider education important, and then when you fail the test, you're gonna say, oh, it's because the math is racist. Math is a white thing. I'm a black man. Black people don't show up on time. Why we had to show up on time? Obviously, this is racist. This is a racist rule. Making excuses for your own behavior. Using your race as an alibi. I digress, though.
Everything is someone else's fault. And the victim sees little chance of improving his life. How can he get ahead if there's someone holding him back? All this makes him victim. All this makes the victim unhappy, frustrated, and angry. And then in the bottom, it says, so victim, so much on victim status, primary center. I call it victimology. Unfortunately, many black churches preach the victimology. Many black parents pass it on to their children. Inner city schools teach it to their students.
Yep, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped going to church too. Is because I noticed that like the pastor will talk about racism or how you got to work twice as hard as a white kid, and I'm like, I don't believe that because maybe because of my personal experience, I was able to always compete. That I never felt the need that I need to work twice as hard. I feel like kids had to work twice as hard to keep up with me. So I was like, then does that mean I have privilege? Like, make it make sense. These people want you to believe that you have privilege based on your race and not because of your family, not because of your community, right? Those have more. I'll agree. If you're saying a kid coming from a rich neighborhood has more opportunities than a kid coming from a poor neighborhood, I agree with that. I agree. There's nothing. It's obvious. It's self-evident. But if you're gonna tell me a black kid has less opportunity than a white kid in America, I'm gonna say, you're a liar. You don't know. I think you're looking at service level. There's other factors that could probably decide why the black kid's getting less opportunity than the white kid. If you told me, oh, the white kid comes from a rich 2-parent educated family and the black kid comes from a single motherhood, low educated family in a poor neighborhood, I'm like, yeah, that's why that kid's not doing successful. There tends to be more black kids in that situation than white kids in that situation, and this is why white kids tend to have better outcomes in general. But they don't want to focus on behaviors, because if you focus on behaviors, it means that they can actually change it. That means in some level they're responsible for the situation they're in. No, they don't want to do that. It's easier to blame their skin color. That's easy. That's more attractive to sell. Oh, I can't do nothing about this, so it's not my fault. You have to change. What's the hardest thing for anyone to do? Admit when they're wrong. And that's the black community right now. This is why they'll double down, triple dog dare you down, 10 toes down, before they admit that they had a wrong perspective on that thing. And I know it's going to take time. I digress.
And the black media reinforces it. Meanwhile, the NAACP and other black grievance groups fundraise it. Number 4, lack of diversity. Blacks repeatedly demand an honest dialogue on debate about race. But how can there be an honest dialogue about race between blacks and whites when there is virtually no honest dialogue between blacks and blacks? It's hypocritical. And if a black does think whites are ultimately responsible for black people's problems, they're labeled a sellout, an Uncle Tom, a race traitor. I'm sure you've experienced some of that yourself.
Crazy, bruh. The lack of diversity. Imagine there's a lack of diversity in the black community. Not the superficial diversity. Oh, we like Hispanic people. We call Hispanic our ninja from another mother. We like Indians. No. I'm not talking about that diversity. I'm talking about diversity of thought, diversity of perspective. Like I said, 90% of the black community are slanted towards the Democrats. And I'm a minority. And if I express my voice, the majority will get mad at me. But I don't care. I'm right. I know I'm right on this issue. I know they don't have the facts and evidence behind them. They rely on the majority right now. But that's true right now. Is it going to be true 20 years from now? Hey, who knows? But me shutting up ain't going to help me make the case that I have in front of you today. The lack of perspective. A community that's 90% one way has blind spots. This is why I said they want conformity. This is why they label you a sellout. This is why they label you an Uncle Tom. This is why they label you a race traitor. Because they want conformity. They don't care about the truth. The truth don't help them. The truth don't help making black people continue voting Democrat. It don't help them. That's why I said, what incentive does a black Democrat have to actually change your situation when if black people stay in the current situation they're in right now, you're guaranteed to vote their way for their benefit. This is why I'm always laughing when I get these comments on my comment section calling me a grifter. But I'm like, you don't call Al Sharpton a grifter. You don't call Jesse Jackson a grifter. And they benefit the most from you voting Democrat, like sheep. Proving Lyndon B. Johnson right. You still owe him 150 more years of voting Democrat. He's getting Al Sharpton getting fancy dinners with Democratic presidents, lobbying for who knows what. But whatever that Al Sharpton lobbied for, did it actually help change black people's situation? No. It probably make you feel better about being in your current situation, and that's how they want you. Comfortable with your current situation. At least as a black conservative, I have an incentive to actually change your situation, because if you change your situation, you start voting my way. So even if you want to take the idea that I'm a grifter, logically, I have more to gain with you changing your situation than you staying the same. But you know, like they said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, voting for the same party over and over again and expecting a different result. Y'all can keep playing that game, but that's a low probability odds, because I'm a man of probability, not possibility. It's possible the Democrats can change on their own, but how probable is that? If black people stay poor, if black people stay low educated, if black people stay having a majority single motherhood usage, have a high usage rate of welfare, dependent on welfare, you vote 90% for Democrats. What incentive does a Democrat have to mess that up? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But black conservatives are coons, Uncle Tom, sellouts, race traitors. If you look at it from that perspective, black Democrats are the race traitors. They're not pro their race, they're pro their party, because their party's not actually helping their race. At least not the common people within their race, who are the average, which is the majority of their people. They're using their people as pawns to gain political influence, power, money. But black conservatives are the grifters. But you don't have that same smoke for Al Sharpton, who working on NBC, who works for NBC as a news anchor. But if my butt gets paid doing the same thing he's doing, I'm the grifter, but he's not. Make it make sense. That's emotional reasoning. That's not logic. Because logic requires consistency. And I don't see that consistency. Especially people who say it's both parties. Both parties are the problem. Okay, if both parties are the problem, how can you tolerate your people voting blindly for one party only? Because they only vote for one party. The majority of them anyway. But it's both sides. Kiss my butt. You know you're lying. You lying through your teeth. Anytime I make a good point against the Democrat Party, well, it's both sides. Nah, passive aggressive. Coping. I never can get a black person to say, oh, you're right about the Democrat Party. You're right about that. I didn't know that. You're right about that. No, they always got to make some excuse for the Democrat. But the minute someone critiques the Republican Party, they got no excuses for the Republicans. Anytime someone criticizes the Republican Party, I never hear them say, oh, it's both sides. I never hear that. Only when you go at the Democrats. Charlemagne, I don't call him the God. Charlemagne is the perfect example of a dude that said it's both sides. He still vote Democrat though. Or he'll make a scene but still vote. Because Democrats don't care about you making a scene. The Democrats don't care about you complaining. They care about how you vote. And if you just make a scene, or they're gonna be like, oh, they all talk. They're gonna keep complaining, but they're still gonna vote for us. That's how the Democrats look at the black community. And as a black man, I'm tired of that now. I'm like, nah, you gonna earn this vote. And that's why you see a lot of black men slowly going towards the conservative party, the Republican Party. This is why you see all these news outlets running cover. Oh no, don't vote for Donald Trump. Look, remember all the things Donald Trump did? Waka Flocka is now endorsing Donald Trump. Another rapper, female rapper, I don't know her name, but endorsing Donald Trump. The hood loves Trump. They scared of that. They're like, oh no. Because Democrats, black Democrats, was never about black people. They pretend they're about black people, but really they're about themselves and their party. I like to call them the house Negroes. But maybe I'm being too harsh. But you know, I mean, conservatives, black conservatives get called names all the time. So I mean, I'm just putting out what they put. I'm just pushing back what they give out. I digress, though. I know I went on a 14-minute rant, but let's get back into the rest of the video.
Over the years, as long as this type of groupthink exists, race reverence of the Al Sharptons, Jesse Jackson types will continue to be celebrated, while independent black thinkers such as Professor Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams, and yourself will be shunned. Okay, let's go to number 3. Urban terrorism. As just about everyone knows, but few talk about publicly, in major black cities, violent black-on-black crimes is rampant. A Department of Justice study from 1980 to 2008 revealed that blacks accounted for almost half of the nation's homicide victims, 47.4%, and more than half of offenders, 52.4%, all while only 13% of Americans' population.
I find it funny how no one calls black-on-black crime, oh, that's some coon-ish. No, they just, oh, that's just how it is in the hood. They just accept it. They just tolerate it. Whatever you tolerate is what you get. And if you continue justifying it, or stitches get stitches, like, that's how you lost Takeoff. People kill him, and then like, oh, we ain't gonna face no repercussions because I just killed another ninja and I'm a ninja, so we good. But let a white person do that, oh, all hell break loose. But we are our own problem. We rob each other. We victimize each other at a higher rate than anyone else. And then the biggest cop out they'll use, oh, well, all other races do it at the rate that black people are doing it? No. 5 times more likely that a black person will rob another black person than a white person is to rob another white person? That's insanity. But you want to blame poverty? You want to blame the system? The system's only holding you accountable. We all agree to the system. Hey, here's the rules. Don't break them. You break them, you go to jail. Simple. But the system is mass incarceration is bad. Well, isn't mass crime bad too? So if the people who are doing the majority of these crimes, shouldn't they go to jail? It just so happened that they're black. Behavior again. Well, I digress. Let's get into it because I want to wrap this up because I have to call it.
Okay, so that's another study. We can go to the next one. Number 2. Proliferation of baby mamas, the disintegration of the nuclear family, which you talked about briefly earlier. According to Mohan report, he was a senator, I believe, right, Tom? How do you say his last name?
Daniel Patrick Moynihan.
Yeah, Moynihan. In 1965, nearly 25% of black children were born to unwed mothers. The report author, Daniel Patrick, said that this was a disaster in the making. He, of course, vilified by so-called black leaders and their progressive allies, but he was right. Today, out of wedlock, birth rates is nearly 75%.
All right, and I made the claim, being single is a luxury now. With the high cost of inflation, black women also have higher eviction rates. And there's another concept. They'll say, oh, it's because of racism. This is why black women get evicted out of houses more often than non-black women. But it's not the case. Black people are statistically poor. Black people statistically have bad credit. Black people statistically have larger amount of debt. Right? Especially black women. Y'all, they rely on the government. There's a reason why there's a high usage rate, a high percentage of black single moms that's on welfare. So when they don't balance their budget, they live day to day. They have 7 baby daddies because it's better to get 7 child support checks than to get one one child support check, right? They treat the government system as some kind of hustle, and when it runs out, they have no means of, they don't have any skill to actually make them have a livable wage, an employable skill, sorry. Because all their skills is based on how to depend on the government. And then what skills they have to teach their kids? Nothing. Oh, just, hey, this is how I made it. And if they have a daughter, she'll repeat the cycle. Oh, this is what my mom did. My mom taught me the game, how to rely on the government. But the minute the government say, oh, we're going to cut these problems off if you vote Republican, this is the real reason why black women are the most loyal Democratic voters, because of this. They get a tangible benefit from it. But if I ask a black man, what tangible benefit you get for voting Democrat? They can't tell me nothing. They give me superficial, emotional reasons. Oh, I vote along with my people. No, you vote along black women that kicked you out of the house. That put out this image of you ain't ish. You're a bad father. You abandon your kids. And then they expect you to vote along their interest. This is why I said there's going to be a separation in the black community. It might be through gender lines. You're already starting to see it. Most black conservatives are men. You see it. Candace Owens is the only black woman I can mention that's a conservative right now. I know there's others, but I'm just saying disproportionately, it's a lot of black men. Because black men are the first one to realize, hey, I get no benefit. I don't get no tangible benefit for voting Democrat. I just get a good boy. You voted along the black community. Because I don't get my validation from other people. I don't need other people to prove my blackness. I'm black regardless of what they say. Black is who I am, not what I'm trying to be. I cannot like fried chicken. I cannot like watermelon. I cannot like all the stereotypically black things that I'm supposed to like. And black people practice this racism on themselves. You're not black because I don't follow a stereotype. If I don't sag my pants, you acting like a white boy. Why are you talking like that? Saw Blondie. What the white boy said? Like they make jokes like that because you can articulate yourself in proper English, in standard English. You can write in standard English. You don't have a problem passing classes. Oh, you ain't black. It's funny. Being black means following negative stereotypes associated with your group. But when you get someone that breaks the mold, you want to call them a sellout, Uncle Tom. That's what I'm saying. The black culture does not want progress. It wants conformity. That's the truth. This is why black people haven't been making progress. Because all the ideas that will progress the people, you shut it down because it challenges your current narrative. Well, this is going to be the boy who cried wolf situation. But, I digress. Let's continue with the video.
1965. I think you talked about this earlier. 25% to today, 75%. Last but not least is the unquestioning allegiance to so-called progressive policies, okay? Unwavering loyalty to progressive liberal policies is the primary reason why these dire conditions exist. It both makes them possible and perpetuates them. It's no coincidence that progressivism is the common thread that binds predominantly black cities where single-parent homes, failing schools, rampant poverty, and crime predominate. I can keep reading this and talking about what's going on in Detroit, Philadelphia. The point I want to make is...
So I wanted to get back... I wanted to get back to the Detroit point. Look at cities like Detroit, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. They have been run by progressive Democrats for decades. But they love blaming the system. But the very people that's supposed to be for black people, their policies is what's holding black people back. Their policies is what incentivizing and creating an environment that keeps them at the bottom. This is what we talk about. This is why we went through culture. This is why I went through Psych Hack's video about how you gain wisdom. How do you gain wisdom as a people? Keep repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again and expecting a different result? Insanity. This is ignorance. Ignorance isn't bliss. Ignorance is very painful. If you're experiencing pain and you don't know what's causing that pain, it's a very stressful situation. That's what's going on in the black community. They don't know what's causing their current problems in society right now. And they keep voting for people they think will fix it, when in reality, they're voting for the very people that's incentivizing and creating the environment that they're suffering from. And then they let these people put the wool over their eyes and say, oh, no, it's the system. Oh, it's been historically this way. It's going to take some time to fix it. 50 years they've been falling for this crap. If their liberal policies were all effective, these cities should have been becoming models of economic growth and prosperity. Those are oxymorons to a progressive. Economic growth and prosperity. No, that don't help the progressives' cause. They can't have you content and comfortable. You might actually change your mind and become a capitalist. Oh, they can't have that. They have to keep you miserable. They have to keep you mad. Because if you're not miserable and mad, you won't vote for them. You're going to start voting, hey, I need less taxes. I'm making too much money. Y'all taking too much money. I don't get no benefit from welfare anymore. If black people were some of the richest group in America, we wouldn't want welfare. This is one of my second point of why Democrats will never want to actually change your economic situation. You're not going to get any financial liberation from the Democratic Party because they benefit from you staying at the bottom. They benefit from you being dependent on the government because you guarantee votes. Because they're the party of what? Big government. Government entitlements. But if the black community was rich, if the average income in the black community was $70K a year, you guys will be paying a lot of taxes. And you're going to be like, nah, I don't want the government taking all this money from me that I could be using for my family. I want to use it more for my family. That's the conservatives aren't selfish. Conservatives are realistic. Hey, if I take care of my own and everyone else take care of their own, nobody will be needing to be dependent on the government. But big government can't have that. Big government needs you to need them. So they create division. They create calls. Oh, look, isn't it unfair? This guy's making so much money. And you're only making this money. You're barely struggling by, and he's buying like 3 cars. Isn't that unfair? And you go, yeah. This is the problem. You're focusing on things outside of yourself and outside of your community instead of addressing problems that you're doing. How can I make more money? How can I make my people prosper without the help of outside groups? That's the conservative mindset. That's the mindset of someone that wants to fix something, not complain about something and then get you riled up. You emotionally vote for me. And then I'm Brandon Johnson bringing in immigrants that make it harder for you to live your life. that getting sheltering, and you see them getting all this tax dollars, and you're like, yo, that's our tax dollars. Why are you using it to funnel in immigrants? Why are you using it to house immigrants in our schools? They're bringing crime. They're bringing problems into our communities. And then you start realizing they put you second. You're just a means to an end to them. That's a progressive policy for you. But black progressives are real pro-blacks. Black conservatives are coons, because black conservatives inconveniently point out things that are wrong and ineffective with the progressive policies. How progressivism is hurting the black community, not helping it. And the minute I try to say, hey, look, conservatism can help that black community, y'all want to discount it. Y'all want to dismiss it. Hey, man. Let's continue.
You can keep reading this and talking about what's going on in the truffle dove. The point I want to make is two very different views of the problem we're facing in America. One is, white supremacist, here's what happened, even this, even that. The other one is responsibility, do something about it, but here's the problem. How do we get these two groups to either come together? And if we can't, how do you get the people that are in the middle open-minded to say, trust me, this mindset on this side, it's going to give you a better life than this mindset on this side wanting to be a victim?
It depends on the people, because at the end of the day, the people have to be reasonable enough to want to be convinced. And I think the only way you can get an unreasonable person to be open to a new idea is if they continue suffering the consequences of the ideas that they advocate for, aka having Brandon Johnson come in and bring in immigrants into your town, into your community, and then see how it's affecting your crime, your safety as a people, the resources getting moved away from you, and the focus becomes them, you being considered a second-class citizen, and you're like, yo, you're supposed to be for me. That's the only way I think someone in the middle will be open to hearing the other side's view, aka the black conservative view, aka, hey, we should look out for in the best interest of our people, best interest of your family. And when I use my people, I mean Americans. I'm not necessarily saying based on race. That's very superficial in my view. And I think that should be the focus. Hey, how can we all win here? But they don't like thinking that way. But hey, I digress. Let's continue.
Again, I think that the response to Oliver Anthony's song gives you a hint at that. There is a thirst, a deep thirst for virtue. The very fact that a homeless man in Boston a couple of years back found a knapsack with $43,000 in it and turned it in. And there was a GoFundMe, and within 3 days, they raised $93,000 for him. That meant deep and that happened 4 times. A black man in Oakland who was homeless, 53 years old, a woman emptied her change purse, and her $15,000 diamond wedding bracelet was there. When she went back 5 hours later, he said, "You're looking for this?" Wow. They had a fundraiser for him, $100,000. That says to me that deep in is a desire to support virtue like that. And so what we do is that the way you undermine the moral authority of the ACLU and these other groups is to equip the people suffering the problem to speak for themselves.
Yep, and that's what I'm doing. Well, but that's because I'm in a financial position to do so. Not a lot of people have the time to consider, let me start making my opinions on YouTube. That's not likely the case, right? And this is a big point that Bob likes to bring up too, is that conservatives need to kind of funnel that message more. And it's tough to have that conversation. Like John Doyle, there was a video I reacted to John Doyle when a white conservative went on an historically black college, and he tried to make the point that he tried to address some of the issues that black college students at HBCU had, and they mobbed him, called the police on him. They didn't want to let him talk. They wanted to call him names. They wanted to disprove his stances as invalid because he was a white boy. They made death threats against him on Twitter. All this nonsense. Can't even have a rational debate about why you think America is a racist country, and you expect people to want to help you. That's not a way you act towards people that you want help from. It's almost an expectation. This is altruism. You want white people to sacrifice themselves at your own benefit, that's impractical. That's illogical to expect me to sacrifice what's best for my family, best for my people, so you can prosper. The best you can do is a win-win situation, two-way street. It's insanity. And look at it. He says people want to help. If you do good, if you put good out of the world, you're going to get good out of the world. But if you put racism out in the world, don't be surprised when you get racism. Black people. If you're saying, oh, that's white culture. Oh, you're a white boy. Oh, you're white. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't be surprised when you get that same energy back. Because if you look at the stats out there, that shows white people, when asked who's the most racist, who's more likely to be racist, white people said black, Asian people said black, Hispanic people say black, even black people said black. More likely to be racist. More likely to say, you better not bring this other race into my house. Who's more likely to say that word? Black people are. But then they're surprised when they get racism back at them, when you've been spewing it all throughout culture. And people have to be the bigger person not to go down at your level. And that's what you count on. White guilt is black power. So without white guilt, black people have no power in this society. And that's what I'm trying to highlight to black people. Hey, you better start learning how to fend for yourself, be dependent on yourself, how to do for yourself, because eventually the guilt is going to run out. Eventually you're going to cry racism one too many times and no one's going to care anymore. And I think that's the biggest fear a lot of these black progressives, these race hustlers have, that people ain't going to care no more. Abram X. Kennedy can't make millions off his book off the white guilt of white people. That's who really funds his book. If you want to call me a coon because majority of white people agree with what I say, shouldn't you be calling Abram X. Kennedy a coon because majority of his books are sold by white people or sold to white people. White people buy most of his books. Most of your rappers, the people who are the biggest spenders in concerts and album sales tend to be white people, tend to be non-black people. Because remember, economically, you're at the bottom technically. The average black household don't have disposable income to waste on an album. I mean, you still can buy it, but going to a concert, front row seats, VIP experience, no, black people tend to not have discretionary income to do that. Are those rappers coons now? When you apply these logic, these smears that I get, like black conservatives take, and I flip it on them, I'm like, yo, you guilty of the same thing. How are you any better? Why your position so much better when objectively you're doing the same thing I'm doing? I'm trying to make my point to the community and you're trying to make your point to the community. But for some reason I'm a traitor, but you're not. When historically I can look through the history of the party you advocate, they're the very reason that the oppression existed in America in the first place. If you want to claim Jim Crow, who was a Democrat, Woodrow Wilson, who arguably is the most racist U.S. president in history, he's the one who brought national segregation to the world. He was a Democrat. But somehow, it's the system of white supremacy, but you don't blame the people that actually created the system, which is the Democratic Party, which you vote 90% for. But for some reason, you don't want to go into that history. Or you want to make excuses, the party switched, they don't like that anymore. Well, to me, they still like that. Affirmative action is racism under new management. Instead of discriminating against black people, discriminate against white and Asian people. Is it not that the same thing? Is it not like back in the day? All it seemed like the Democratic Party has been able to do is change their stripes. But they change. Okay, Cap. You're just happy now you're on the other side of it. But like I said, it's always going to come back. Eye for an eye that will make the whole world blind for a reason. There's a reason why that's a saying. And I agree with this message. This is a hopeful message that we need to get we need to pursue virtue, not grievance. But let Bob finish his point.
And they speak for themselves the way the Black Mothers United have come together, for example. You support groups so that now we've got 20 chapters, about 2,000 of these moms who are having positive interactions. We were honoring the police and organizing events with students are being mobilized by the thousands to speak out against violence. In other words, you've got to invest in the institutions within those communities where people are speaking up for themselves and make them the new heroes. But again, it's going to take investment. But conservatives don't invest the way they do. They'll invest in think tanks because their children can go there and be interns.
So now he's calling out the conservatives, and I agree with that, right? I think there needs to be more investment into pushing, Turning Point USAs of the world, the Blexit, what Candace Owens is doing. They need to have a little bit more investment, and they have to invest for the future, because that's what the left do. The left invests in things that they get no monetary returns on, but in the long term, they gain a cultural win. And this is how you take over institutions, right? Communist playbook. And you have to fight back. You have to meet them in the battle, the grounds of the battlefield of ideas. But tactically, in a political sense, it doesn't matter if the Republican Party gets the black vote or not. That's the inconvenient truth about it. They don't really need the black vote to win. I'm just saying, hey, the black people need to change their voting patterns to get something out of the Republican Party. Hey, we can help you win easier. Hey, we just need more opportunities. Right? But the black people, it requires the black community, the black culture, to change this perspective of race pride. That, I see myself as a black man, not as an American. And I think until that cultural shift happens, I don't think black people will vote for the Republican Party at a very dramatic rate. But I digress.
And we seem to think all you got to do is publish the right policies, and then people will change. It's not a rhetorical battle that we're in. This is a battle for meaning. This is a battle of substance. We must demonstrate to the American public that the values of this nation have the consequence of improving the quality of life. And if people can find content and meaning in their life in a drug-infested, crime-ridden neighborhood, and we highlight that and celebrate it and make them the new heroes, then they are the ones that we can stand shoulder to shoulder with and say, we must push back. But again, it takes investment.
Yeah, it's interesting you say this. I look at, I run multiple companies. And when you run multiple companies, then you have multiple C-suites, then you have multiple department managers, general managers.
And I agree with the sentiment of the message. I think I've been running a little too long on this. I'm almost about to hit 2 hours. So I'm going to wrap it up with this final thoughts. I agree with what he said in the end, that you need to essentially, that your culture, whoever your culture uplifts, is who the younger generation will model. Those who come after will model. And whatever you glorify is what the kids will strive to be. In the black culture, we put out rappers, athletes, and look at the culture. Who's 74% of the NBA? Black men. That could be something to do with the culture, right? In white Jewish culture, lawyer, engineer, doctor. Okay, what those kids tend to be? Lawyers, engineers, doctors. That's because the culture holds these people in high regard. You have to make the same case in the black culture as well. Who the culture uplifts, who the culture glorifies. Rappers, athletes. You know them by name. You know Jay-Z's a billionaire. You know Michael Jordan's a billionaire. You know LeBron James is about to be a billionaire, if not already a billionaire. But they're not even the richest black man in the country. The richest black man in the country is a banker. But he's not glorified. He's not uplifted. No one knows his name in the black community. There's probably more white people that know who he is than black people do. But he's the richest black person in America. But more white people know who he is than black people. That shows you how important culture is. And that's my point. It's not race. It's your behavior. It's your culture. It's how you structure the values that you purport to the future generations of black people. And it goes back to what Frederick Douglass always said. It's better to raise strong children than to fix broken people. And how I interpret that message is, it's better to focus on the future generation than the current generation, because the current generation is going to be set in their ways, right? I can't tell a dude that experienced the civil rights movement, let's say Al Sharpton, for instance. If I tell him racism is not a big issue in black America, he's going to take offense to that because he's going to remember his personal experience. But he's not going to recognize the current landscape that I was born into in 1996. That America's not that way it was in 1964. He's not going to let that go because that's an emotional thing. So where my energy, where my efforts are pointed at is to the future generation, people of my generation. Because I can say, hey, you know damn well you ain't having racism like this person think he has racism. You know damn well you're exaggerating what's going on. You know damn well you're misdiagnosing the actual cause of that dispute. It wasn't race, it was behavior. But hey, I digress. Thanks for sticking out to me. I know it's been a long one. Timestamps will be out maybe a couple hours after. I feel really tired, really whatever. But I powered through. No excuses, right? No excuses. So I appreciate you guys watching on the replay. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How you feel about YouTube censorship? How you feel about pretty much my breakdown of why my mindset as a conservatism. If you have any thoughts to add with the premises of conservatism, what do you think it means to be a conservative? Let me know in the comment section if you're watching this on the replay. I appreciate you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share my videos if it's also if you find value in this and you think someone else will find value in this. Please share my video. Don't forget to follow me on Rumble as well, and I'll catch you guys on the next live with Kenny. Appreciate you. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'll catch you guys on the next live stream. Peace.